Welcome to the Cracking the Growth Code podcast, where we explore practical growth and leadership insights to take you and your organization to the next level. Today, I'm very happy to have as my guest, Bhrugu Giri. Bhrugu, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Matt, for having me over here. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I'm excited that we're both casual. We both have hoodies on. We're relaxed. It's a little late in the day here. I know when people watch it, it could be morning, could be afternoon, could be anywhere in the world. But I'd like to start just to introduce yourself, your role with your current company, and what your current company is up to. This is all about agile leadership and growth, but we really want to get to know you and shine a spotlight on what you're up to right now to start.
Yeah, so currently I'm a founder CTO of a green tech startup. And it's currently in stealth mode because I'm still trying to work through the product fit, through the market fit and requirements and all that. I have a website out there, but mainly what I'm working on is sustainability with respect to junk collection, with respect to proper disposal of a lot of household waste that people tend to accumulate and hoard over several years, and trying to create a marketplace that provides a one-stop solution for green disposal of items that are no longer needed in the households. The market currently is fragmented, so I'm trying to bring it all together and create an Uber for waste management and decluttering services. In my previous experience, I have led teams at Apple, Uber, Capital One, Goldman Sachs, and a few other financial services companies. Have been an engineer for almost 21 years and a leader for about 15. So yeah, that's in a nutshell what my current company is doing and what I've been up to for the last 2 decades or so.
That's fantastic. Does the current company have a name yet? Have you named it?
Oh yes, I have named it. It's just not public yet.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We don't have to go there. But that's exciting. I like how you described it, the Uber of waste management, right? For household waste. So this is a it's a B2C play essentially, right? It's like getting out to households focused on United States first, or
well, I mean, it's sort of, it's not just for household waste, right? So, let me just dig in a little deeper into sort of the marketplace dynamics, right? So currently, if you look at just the general cluttering sort of the ecosystem, right? I mean, where the waste really gets created, there are 3 main areas where you could actually expand it more, but let's just try to get into 3 main areas. So you have the household waste, wherein people have been collecting, stuff for years, like, oh, my childhood toy or this wooden artifact, something that I was really big fan of, but I don't no longer need it. So I put it into a garage or a yard or wherever. The second area is businesses. I mean, businesses create a lot of waste, and their waste creation is pretty dynamic depending upon when they get the deliveries. So there's a lot of cardboard waste, or they may want to get rid of stuff that's no longer sold on the shopping aisles. So they may want to get rid of that. And then the third one is construction waste. So construction sites create a lot of waste, and they have these periodic cycles wherein people come in and collect it. But what if they wanted to collect something on demand? And they'd have no ways of doing it. So in that case, what people typically do is they would go online, they would try to shop things, they would have to share a lot of their personal details just to get a quote. But what if you had a service where you don't have to share any of your personal details, where you want to maintain your privacy, but still want that flexibility to shop around for the best possible solution provider, the best possible rate that really and that does so in a more sustainable manner, like keeping the environment in mind. So if you want a solution like that, there isn't one right now. When I was moving from Virginia to California, one of the biggest problems was that I had, how do I take care of the crib that my daughter no longer uses? How do I take care of the toys that she no longer uses? How do I take care of the swing that she cannot sit in anymore? So I had to find, a provider that would come in and collect stuff for Goodwill stores or for the Salvation Army, and that way, right? So it's a lot of hassle for consumers or businesses. So I'm trying to simplify that sort of a problem right now.
That's a fantastic problem to solve too, because my dad is in his late 70s. He actually takes care of a woman who is in her, I think, late 80s. But just the other side of the market, you talked about the domestic and households and construction. My dad's dealing with right now as she this woman has dementia. As she literally trips over furniture in her house, they have to remove that furniture from the assisted living facility.
Yeah.
So he has to have somebody come in. Nobody just comes in and takes this away, but they have to put in furniture that's more friendly for her age and for her ability, and take out other furniture. So there's a lot of, like you said, all households deal with it. We deal with it in our house too. Like as the kids grow up older, they have to get rid of things. And how do you do that in a sustainable way? That's fantastic challenge. Let's talk about, it sounds like right now you're a pretty small team, you're a one-man team, or you have a small group?
I just, right now it's just me and two more engineers really trying to solve this problem.
Okay, so let's talk through the, and I know you have a lot of experience with Apple and some other high-profile companies and so forth, and you have a lot of experience, small, medium, large companies and growing organizations. So as you're thinking through as a startup founder, you have a team of yourself and two other engineers now. Where are you going like in the next year? Are you looking to double the size of your team, quadruple the size of your team? What are you thinking from a product development perspective and from a staff development perspective?
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenge right now for is twofold. One is, obviously to get the MVP out, which means building the matching engines and the algorithms and everything along with a website that people can interact with. And in parallel, actually try and acquire customers who are willing to take a bet on, a sustainable marketplace like this, right? Because it's very hard to convince people that you start using, it's just that threshold, right? So we're trying to solve that on those fronts. The challenge that we are facing is, obviously with funding and money and whatnot, right? That every founder has to pay. So right now I'm funding it myself. I'll see how long I can sustain that, but we're getting some help from here and there. But for the next year, the biggest challenge is to get the MVP out, to get the product market fit, acquire customer, build an ops team that can help with the onboarding of the customers, with getting the orders, getting the providers to really ship it. In a semi-autonomous, automated fashion, and eventually look for full-scale automation. The same way, like how Uber or Lyft or DoorDash, how they really do the whole order keeping system. At some point, we want to also start considering getting into a mobile app business and all of that sort of stuff. So yes, growing the team, obviously, building a sustainable architecture, compliance related challenges, that come in with solutions that start really hitting a larger pool of users and providers. So those will be, the most primary, goals that I would have for my company in the following year.
That sounds fantastic. And there's obviously a lot to do. I can tell you're wearing a lot of hats, and any startup founder has to do that. Yeah. What do you see as the biggest, and obviously you're the leader of the company and you have to continue to grow and develop, the culture of the company and the ability and effectiveness of its growth is on you right now as you're developing your team around you. What do you see as the biggest challenges to your growth or your ability to get your MVP to land in a successful enough way to continue an upward path forward?
I think, the biggest challenge is, so, as for someone who has worked through, mainly corporate settings, right? Like Goldman Sachs or Barclays, large institutions with, storied histories and whatnot, and a very clear vision about what areas of businesses they are going to support and the sort of outcomes they're going to drive for their customers. Becoming a founder who is just trying to build an MVP right now with no guarantees of whether this will be a success in the marketplace, the biggest challenge becomes around, having the right mindset, right, from a growth and from a build perspective, being perseverant. Perseverance is another thing, right? You don't want to really give up just because you're facing headwinds, and a change in perspective about how you start looking at a problem. As a startup founder, every problem is your problem. You don't really have a lot of folks to depend upon, especially when you are starting with just two engineers who are fairly junior in my case. Providing the right vision, the motivation, the clarity of why we're building a product and how it is going to impact, hundreds or thousands of users in getting rid of the clutter out of their houses and leave better organized lifestyles is a big challenge. I mean, and providing that bigger picture vision and drilling it down to how it affects your day-to-day job
Mm.
is the hardest problem to solve right now. And I'm facing it myself. Like, there are days when, you know, to be honest, I feel like, is this the right thing to do, right? And to continue sort of pushing through that barrier that's in your
Hmm.
mind is tricky. It's something that I have never faced before in the last 20 years that I've been working, because I've always worked in organizations where the vision was already set up by somebody else at the top.
Hmm.
So to be at that position is interesting.
Yeah, I love that you went to mindset as the first thing because that's so, so important. And as my background's project management and agile scrum master and coaching and executive coaching and so forth. And I think about mindset all the time. And especially in the last 5 years, I said, okay, how can I develop my mindset better? How can I put myself in
Yeah,
challenging situations personally and professionally? Because that's I'm helping people lead through that, right? Just as you're leading
yeah,
yourself and your organization, through challenges, it's personally and professionally, it's challenging every day. So I commend you for going the entrepreneurial route because it's the next phase for you, the next challenge, and
yeah,
the next opportunity to really creatively share your gifts with the world, right, in a bigger way.
yeah,
And
yeah. And yeah, it's not easy. I mean, because when you have had, somewhat comfortable sort of a setting wherein, I mean, you're just worried about your specific point of the view from from a world perspective, right? That, okay, this is my area that I'm going to support ads from a data perspective in Apple, or I'm going to support business systems at Uber, for example. Um, it your view is you focused, right? I mean, you know exactly what you're doing, and to really expand that mindset to start thinking about, okay, I need to think about how I'm going to acquire customers. I need to think about what my architecture is going to look like, what my infrastructure investments are going to look like. Where is the money going to come from in order to do all of that? I mean, it's a lot, right? And that's where, like, you start thinking about, okay, how do I want to organize my actions and sequence them, or make them parallel in a way, in wherever possible, so that I can, A, I mean, best use my time and energies, and B, I want to make sure that we're moving, the ball forward, not
mm,
really stepping backward from there, right? So it's a learning exercise. I'm still learning, still struggling through it, going through bouts of depressions at times, that am I
yeah.
really doing the right thing? But the focus is always forward, right? That, okay, I want to, like, take baby steps and move forward and learn from some, like, learn from this experience, to be honest. Yeah,
Yeah, I can tell you're very passionate, Bruger, about the problem that you're solving, which is fantastic. And I'd imagine as a leader that you're going to tap into the benefits that that solution is going to offer your end customers to give you
yeah,
motivation, right? Because
yeah,
the ups and downs, depression, excitement, all that, it comes and goes as a startup
yeah,
founder for sure. And so, what do you what sort of gets you out of the depression and gets you reconnected to the energy and the spark that really started it all? Do you
yeah,
connect in with how you're going to change somebody's life with a solution, or are there other
yeah.
things?
Yeah, so what really, sort of helps me get out of it is, I mean, obviously the fact that, I mean, this is something that I'm truly passionate about. I've been for 5 years, ever since I was at Uber. When I pitched this problem to our incubator team, but we weren't able to pick it up at that point. So I've been passionate on it for about 5 years. So this is something that's definitely been at the back of my mind for about 5 plus years now. The second aspect is, I mean, I'm very stubborn when it comes to problems and stuff. So I may face, like, I just get depressed a little bit when things aren't really moving at the speed that I would like them to move, but I don't really give up. I mean, that's one of my traits that is good and bad in a certain way,
Mm,
but the stubbornness really makes me going. And the third thing is about my inherent, like, passion for solving complex problems. I love solving complex problems. I want to take them head on, and I want to make sure, I'm always thinking about, what are the three different ways or five different ways that I can really approach this problem to really solve it. So those three things in combination, really, the stubbornness, the thirst to solve a problem, and not giving up, right? I mean, those things really make me really get out of the depression and focus on, I mean, how can I keep moving the ball forward all the time with respect to what I'm really solving right now.
That is fantastic, Bhrugu. I think about just the way you shared that. I think about those things all the time, and I'll compare it just briefly to I did my first Spartan race like 11 years ago, which is an obstacle course race. You go out in the mud, you're crawling under barbed wire. It's very uncomfortable, way out of your comfort zone. And when I was training for my first one of my friends who was a personal trainer at the time said, you know what, you're going to do fine because it's all mindset. To do any challenge, whether it's a startup founder, it's the mindset and being persistent. Like you said, persistent. Can you persistently keep a growth mindset, even when your mind says, oh, it's safer to just do this other thing. It's safer to go back and work for a big company that has a big budget and you're just rolling out another product. It's a lot more safe. It's a lot more predictable. But when you do something your own, now you're creating something. There's a lot more clay that you're molding and a lot more potential impact in the work that you're going to make with your uniqueness, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, the thing is, I mean, because of whatever circumstances with respect to that I had at the time, I always wanted to play it safe. I always wanted to really mitigate the risk. I always wanted to make sure that, okay, I don't really want to step out of a certain boundary that I had created in my mind about what are the areas I want to work on, for example, right? So moving out of finance, for example, when I came to Uber, was a big step for me. That was like one of the first things where I felt, okay, this is something out of my comfort zone. I'm working for a non-public company that is about to go public, and we don't know how it is going to behave and all those things. And then, I mean, from there, taking a jump totally into something that I'd never worked into in ads was another thing. But it was always, as you said, right, that working in a corporate setting where you have fixed budgets, where you have predictable outcomes, somebody else decides at the top what we're going to deliver is different. But I had this hankering about, okay, I want to do something of my own. I want to really be, my own boss someday. I want to really start something of my own. So that was always there. And now with this opportunity, I'm really hoping to make it a success. I'm putting in the time and energy, and we'll see. I mean, how that goes. I'll definitely let you know.
Yeah, no, that's very, very exciting. I'm excited to keep in touch with you along your whole journey.
Of course. Yeah, I would love to as well.
I love entrepreneurship, and there's so much out there. This relates to I saw a conversation with another entrepreneur giving this other entrepreneur advice, and these other entrepreneurs were franchisees in the hospitality space. So they had a number of restaurants, a number of retail businesses that they had grown for the last like 20 years. And they said to the more senior entrepreneur as advice, they said, hey, what do you recommend we do next? Do we go expand our portfolio? And he said, I think you should become the franchisor. I think you should come up with your own opportunity that you're putting out in the marketplace.
And find franchises, right?
Right, which is like just what you did. You went from creating and trying new things under the protection and safety of a corporate entity to doing it completely on your own. Like, how can you create your own baby from scratch and go? Which is very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we wrap up here, Bhrugu, as we wrap up, what are 3 tips that you have to share for other leaders in the world today that they could take away with? What are 3 key takeaway tips that you could offer other leaders?
Yeah, I think, I mean, the thing is, I mean, what I typically go by, right, is it's always about people, process, and technology, right? So when I talk about people, it's like, lead with empathy, make sure that you care for the people that you work on, provide actionable feedback, and make sure that you understand have a perspective about what's going on. From a process perspective, perseverance, leading change, being transformational with, I mean, and challenging the status quo. And technology is always look for better opportunities to really make a positive impact to the world that you're in. So use the technology to drive impact are the 3 tips that I would give anybody from a leadership point.
Those are great. And, me being in the Agile space, those all speak to Agile all the time because people, process, and technology, they're always changing, right? You always need to adapt. How can you maximize the people and the process and the technology to the benefit of solving the complex problem that you're going after.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time, your energy, all your insights. I know our audience is going to love hearing this, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you on your journey and into the next year and beyond.
Yeah, me as well. I mean, it was great to really connect with you, Matt. And I mean, I love what you're doing. It's definitely something, if it were a video library, it could be a playbook for future leaders to really, learn from, benefit from, and really make it, make lives better for the people that they're leading. So it's a great sort of initiative that you have with the Growth Podcast. And I'm happy that you really reached out for me to share some of my experiences with your audiences. So great great being here. And I would love to be on your podcast again. I mean, I absolutely loved our conversation.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Bhrugu.
Absolutely, sir. Take care.